You might say that the mantra for Meghan Markle and Prince Harry in 2025 has been all about showing up and projecting an image of tireless humanitarian work. But if you look closer beyond the flashbulbs and the staged smiles, what many of us are witnessing is a disaster of their own making. It's a collapse not caused by outside forces, but by a fundamental belief that they are always right and everyone else is wrong. When I speak to former staff members, a chilling pattern emerges. Meghan often hits out at those around her, claiming she is being treated unfairly by certain individuals. To her, there is always a problem out there because, in her world, it can never truly be her fault. She simply has to pin the blame on someone else. Now, after years of being tethered to this mindset, Harry is finding himself hitting the exact same wall. He recently tried to garner some positive attention through a charitable appearance, but it has reached a point where whatever they touch becomes truly toxic. Think about this. We've seen mass firings within their team recently. Imagine being a staff member asked to pose for big, happy pictures for a charitable event, only to find out hours later that you were being let go. This isn't humanitarianism, it's optics management at its most brutal. In 2025, that simply doesn't cut it anymore. The Sussex brand is currently pushing ventures that feel dead in the water. Meghan should be posting sold-out signs, yet everything she touches feels disorganized or cack-handed. From random chocolate bars to bottles of wine, there is no relatable identity. Even their major Netflix Christmas special is being viewed as a massive failure, a broadcast that crew and executives likely looked at and thought, is this really it? Harry goes along with it to keep the peace, avoiding arguments at all costs. But the bigger issue remains. How do they remarket themselves when the world has already moved on? Many are now saying that by 2026, it will well and truly be over for the Sussexes. This is the night the state blinked, and the public realised that the illusion of control was gone. What you also have to remember is that Meghan Markle is now trying to push a brand that is, quite frankly, dead in the water. Under normal circumstances, especially at this peak time of year, a successful lifestyle mogul should be posting sold-out signs all over her platform, capitalising on the festive rush. Instead, we see a profound void. This is not a brand that any ordinary person can truly relate to. I am not just knocking her as an individual or a business person, but everything about this venture feels cack-handed. One moment there is a random chocolate bar, the next there is a bottle of wine, and the messaging is completely lost in the static. There is no soul in the brand, only a desperate grasp for a luxury that feels unearned. Then, we must look at the Netflix Christmas TV show. It was not just a disappointment, it was a monumental failure for the streaming giant. You have to imagine the scene in the editing room when the executives and the crew looked at those final cuts. They must have been staring at the screen in total disbelief, thinking, is this it? Is this really what we are putting out to the global audience? But by that stage, the machinery had already turned. The checks were signed, the salaries were paid, and the broadcast was inevitable. Mark my words, in the years to come, people will look back on that program not as entertainment, but as absolute comedy gold. The tragic irony is that Meghan herself actually believed she was creating a masterpiece, a brilliant piece of programming. And where is Harry in this spiral? For his part, he simply goes along with the narrative. He wants to keep the peace at home. He wants to avoid the argument at all costs. But in his silence and his compliance, the damage to his own reputation is being cemented forever. This leads us to a much bigger issue, the impossible problem of remarketing. By 2026, the industry consensus is that it will be well and truly over for the Sussexes. They are still ploughing on, pretending the ground is firm, but they are running out of territory. They are in desperate need of fresh capital, yet they are finding it harder to attract serious investors who want to tie their wealth to such toxicity. The year 2025 began with the Saint-Étienne disaster in February, a moment that blew up in Harry's face. He was not portrayed as the hero or the humanitarian he claims to be, but as something far more damaging. Allegedly, this entire mess started because Meghan demanded a public apology on the world stage after a minor incident at a polo match. Harry effectively sabotaged his own charitable image, his life of service, just to satisfy a diva's demand for an apology. He tossed away years of goodwill for a moment of vanity, and now, in the cold light of 2025, the bill is finally coming due. If there is one thing that has become crystal clear in the early months of 2025, it is that the Sussexes are in desperate need of a massive financial influx. To maintain the lifestyle they've built in California, they need investors. But investors are looking at the wreckage of the past year and pulling back. The year 2024 didn't just end badly, it began with a total collapse of Harry's charitable image. Cast your mind back to February, when the Centre Bail affair blew up on the world stage. This wasn't just a minor PR hiccup, it was a disaster of the highest level because it painted a picture of Harry that he has spent a lifetime trying to avoid. Suddenly, the world wasn't seeing the brave veteran or the compassionate prince. They were seeing a man accused of being a misogynist and a bully. These are heavy, damaging words, allegations that strike at the very heart of the brand he and Meghan have tried to build. But the most revealing part of this entire mess wasn't the external criticism, it was what was happening behind the scenes. It all boiled down to one thing, a demand for a public apology. Apparently, Meghan wanted an apology on the world stage for an interaction at a polo match. She felt busted on that platform and she expected Harry to fix it, regardless of the cost to his reputation or his charity. Harry, playing the knight in shining armour, decided to blow everything away for her. He prioritised a diva's ego over the integrity of his charitable work. Imagine throwing away your life of service, as he so often calls it, over a minor ego bruise at a polo match. This is where the lack of a proper thought process becomes dangerously evident. His staff are now fragmented, leaving in waves because they are quite simply terrified of the Duchess. In the corridors of power, she is now being referred to as the Diva Duchess in High Heels, a title coined by the Hollywood Reporter that sticks like glue. When the decision-making is driven by a need for constant validation and apologies rather than strategic service, the foundation cannot hold. Harry has hit a wall where his loyalty to Meghan's demands is actively destroying the very platforms like Centre Bail and Invictus that gave him a purpose. By 2026, if this pattern of prioritising personal vendettas over charitable impact continues, there will be nothing left of the royal brand to market. They are trading their legacy for a headline, and the world is finally starting to see that the cost is far too high. There is a growing sense in the industry that Prince Harry has finally decided to go this alone, attempting to salvage what remains of his personal reputation apart from the Duchess brand. This leads us to a pivotal moment at the start of the year. His appearance at a gathering to commend the brave men and women of the Los Angeles Fire Service. It was a horrific time for the city, and Harry's presence was intended to be a noble gesture of support. However, what should have been a powerful image of leadership turned into a bizarre display of professional confusion. Harry turned up looking like he had just popped out from a local supermarket. Now, his defenders might say, well, he's in California, he's dressing down, it's a casual culture. But here is the critical point. If you want to make an impact, you have to project authority. You have to look suitable for the gravity of the occasion. Instead, Harry looked like an ordinary citizen who had wandered into the wrong room. It wasn't just about the clothes. It was about the projection of power. He is essentially still cosplaying a royal role, turning up to thank people as if he still holds the weight of the crown, while failing to maintain the standards that make that role believable. Why was he even there? In an area filled with truly deserving local leaders and heroes, Harry's presence felt like a hollow attempt to remain relevant. Behind the scenes, the story was even more complicated. According to staff insiders, Meghan was originally supposed to attend this event. It was intended to be a joint goodwill mission. But at the very 11th hour, she pulled back. It seems Harry had a moment of clarity. He realised that if Meghan stood beside him, it would evoke all the backlash and toxicity that had characterised the start of their year. He knew that for this to work, she had to stay away. This is the reality of their micro-minute celebrity status in 2025. They are constantly repositioning, constantly trying to find a version of themselves that the public will accept. But you cannot win when you are trapped in a cycle of insensitivity. By trying to show up for the cameras without the actual substance of a royal mandate, they are only highlighting the void where their purpose used to be. They are people who work just 1 hour a week on their charity, yet they want the world to treat them as global leaders. The public sees through the cosplay, and the wall Harry is hitting is the realization that a title without a country is just a costume. As we move toward 2026, the Sussexes are attempting to re-evaluate where they are going, but the numbers tell a story of a foundation that is hollowed out. They have rebranded, they have renamed, and they have repositioned, but you cannot fix a sinking ship by simply changing its name. We are now told that they are down to just 2 staff members in their charity. Think about that for a moment. A global brand that once claimed it would change the world is now operating with a skeleton crew that wouldn't be enough to run a local coffee shop. The official line coming out of Montecito is that they wanted to reduce monetary outgoings. But let's be brutal about what that actually means in the real world. You have to cut staff when there is no money coming in. A celebrity charity only survives if people believe in the mission, and the public clearly doesn't believe that the Sussexes actually do anything. The most damning revelation is the fact that they reportedly only work 1 hour a week on their charity. 1 hour. That isn't a life of service. That is a hobby. It is a micro-minute commitment from people who expect maximum global attention. This is the big issue with the celebrity thing when it comes to charity. People donate when they see a track record of consistent, hard work, but while the Sussexes are flying halfway around the world for fashion shows or to associate with people they barely know, their own charitable foundation is gathering dust. There is a fundamental lack of substance. You can see the difference when you look at someone like Prince William. Recently, he took his eldest son to a homeless charity in the heart of London, a charity started by his mother. It was a passing of the mantle, a visual representation of long-term commitment and genuine duty. The Sussexes, on the other hand, announced to the world that their children at age 6 and 4 will eventually be part of their charitable foundation. It's an absurd attempt to create a dynasty before they've even created a successful business. They are trying to sell a future that has no foundation in the present. While the King and the Prince of Wales are physically on the stage, showing up for the difficult conversations and the behind-the-scenes strategy, Harry and Meghan are hiding behind press releases and 1-hour work weeks. The public is getting angry because they feel they aren't seeing enough delivery. In the world of the 24-hour news cycle, if you aren't seen to be doing the work, the world assumes you've stopped doing it altogether. While Harry and Meghan hide behind curated press releases and a dwindling staff, the firm back in the United Kingdom operates on a completely different frequency. This is where the divide becomes a chasm. One of the biggest issues facing the monarchy today is the perception of how it is run, and this is where the Sussexes have fundamentally misunderstood the nature of royal power. In the royal family, you don't just show up for the cameras, you show up for the people, even when the cameras aren't there. We recently saw news that His Majesty King Charles III remains the hardest working royal, a fact that is truly commendable when you consider his ongoing health struggles. There are days when anyone going through such treatment would just want to stick their head under the pillow, yet he knows the core mantra of the monarchy: you must be seen to be believed. This was the late Queen's guiding light. She wore fluorescent outfits so that even the person at the very back of the crowd could say they saw her. It's about being physically present on the world stage, a standard Harry has failed to meet with his dressing-down supermarket-style appearances. Behind the palace walls, there is natural friction, the kind you find in any father and son business. William is moving at a different pace, focusing more on long-term, behind-the-scenes strategic work phone calls, Zoom chats, and deep dives into issues like homelessness. He believes you can do more good from the shadows, but the public demand for visibility is a relentless beast. If the public doesn't feel they are seeing enough delivery, they get angry. This is the visibility trap that Harry and Meghan have fallen into. They want the celebrity status without the daily grind of duty. The monarchy survives because it conforms to the public's expectations of service. We, the public, are the ultimate decision makers. If we don't believe in the work being done, the institution falters. While William and Charles manage their internal friction to keep the business running, the Sussexes are busy rewriting their own history. They think they can bypass the seen to be believed rule by simply being famous. But 2026 is approaching fast, and the world is realizing that fame without service is just noise. Harry is hitting a wall because he's trying to run a monarchy of two in a world that only respects the monarchy of the many. There is a fascinating contrast in how messages are delivered to the public in the royal sphere. Take, for instance, Tom Parker Bowles, the son of the Queen Consort. While he isn't royal, His association allows him to speak out in defense of the people, such as the British farmers getting headlines and starting real conversations that the royals themselves are constitutionally barred from having. Even King Charles III, in his Christmas speech, has only one opportunity a year to use his own words without government interference. This is the power of a disciplined brand. When they speak, the world listens because the voice is rare and the message is focused. Compare this to the utter and unmitigated shambles that is the Sussex brand. It has been fascinating to watch, but for all the wrong reasons. When Meghan first started her podcast, Archetypes, or whatever ridiculous name they chose, they put up massive posters in New York's Times Square. Yet, nobody understood the brand. This is where the vanity of Meghan and Harry becomes their greatest liability, naming their multi-million-dollar companies after their children. It simply doesn't work. It feels self-indulgent rather than professional. Look at someone like Gwyneth Paltrow. She built Goop into a powerhouse because people knew who she was as an Oscar-winning actress, and the name was distinctive. Then came the American Riviera Orchard, another mouthful of plums that nobody asked for. The launch was a case study in how not to start a business. They fell afoul of public domain names, they couldn't find staff, they couldn't find a PR team, and they released a fuzzy, confusing video that left everyone wondering what the objective even was. If you are a company shelling out millions to prop up a new brand, you need clarity. Instead, there was a deafening silence from the very celebrities Meghan expected to support her. Where were the A-list endorsements? If Netflix boss Ted Sarandos truly believed Meghan could sell anything, why wasn't he pictured slopping her jam on his morning muffin? The lack of visual support from her inner circle, from the polo crowd to the Hollywood elite, speaks volumes. They are staying away until she can prove the brand is a success. By 2026, the vanity of naming ventures after family and the cack-handed execution of their business launches will likely be the final nails in the coffin. They have the fame, but they lack the professional discipline that makes a brand endure beyond a micro-minute headline. One of the things that has always baffled senior members of the British monarchy is the strange and calculated association between Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. To understand why they are hitting a wall in 2025, we have to look back at how Meghan presented her life before she closed her Instagram account and moved behind the palace walls. She was a vlogger, a foodie, a struggling actress on the second rung of the ladder. Yet in her own mind, she was always the leading lady. But the lead role required a specific background, a story of a woman who struggled alone, without the family support that actually made her career possible. Prince Harry has become the willing stooge in this grand rewrite of history. He is a man who seems ready to believe any version of events Meghan presents to him, no matter how much it contradicts reality. Think back to that pivotal moment on the BBC Radio 4 programme where Harry sat down as a guest editor. He dropped a bombshell that reverberated through the palace, stating that Christmas with the royals was a chance for Meghan to finally have the family she never had. It was a public slap in the face to Thomas Markle and the entire Markle family who had supported her for decades. Thomas was dumbfounded because the portrait Harry was painting was a complete fabrication, a foundation laid by Meghan to justify the total erasure of her past. Now, in 2025, we see the brutal reality of that erasure. Thomas Markle is 80 years old, an amputee, and ailing in health, yet he remains completely cut off. Despite the headlines and the claims of humanitarian values, Meghan has no plans to assist him or even pick up his medical bills. She has decided it is over. She uses his past mistakes, selling stories or setting up paparazzi shots as a permanent shield to justify her lack of compassion. But as many observers ask, is a minor PR lapse really worth abandoning a father in his final years? Harry continues to believe one version of events, trapped in a bubble of Meghan's making. But according to dark sources, the most chilling part is that Meghan claims she can only reveal her true story of growing up in the fullness of time. We all know what that means in the world of celebrity PR. It is a weaponized narrative kept in reserve, a story they plan to sell when the current money dries up. By 2026, the dream of becoming billionaire entrepreneurs is in absolute tatters because you cannot build a global brand on a foundation of family abandonment and rewritten lies. Harry is finally starting to see the bigger picture, and the wall he is hitting is the realization that the woman he sacrificed everything for may have been playing a part from the very beginning. As we edge closer to the definitive wall of 2026, the most telling sign of the Sussexes' decline is the deafening silence from the very world they sacrificed everything to join, the Hollywood elite. In the beginning, the association worked. Celebrities were drawn to the novelty of an ex-royal couple. They wanted the photo op, the chat show talking point, the inner circle status. People like Ellen DeGeneres openly boasted about meeting Archie, trying to signal their proximity to the Sussex power centre. But look at the landscape now. Ellen is reportedly fleeing the Cotswolds, and the circle that once felt impenetrable is now vanishing into the mist. Celebrities are, by nature, cold and calculating. They are about themselves, their brands, and their survival. They are staying away until Meghan can prove that her brand is a success and, more importantly, worthy of their association. Where is the public support from Beyoncé? Where is Mariah Carey endorsing the latest Sussex venture, even while she had a Christmas single to promote? They are nowhere to be seen. Even the Oscar winner, Kevin Costner, whom Meghan reportedly tried to woo with her lifestyle offerings, wasn't having any of it. The silence from the A-list is a strategic withdrawal. They have realised that associating with Team Sussex is no longer a career boost, but a potential liability. Netflix, too, is being very pragmatic. Behind the scenes, they aren't looking at the brilliance Meghan sees in her programmes. They are looking at the data, the investment, and the dwindling returns. They are quietly evaluating where to put their money moving forward, and the billionaire entrepreneur dream that Meghan and Harry once championed is now in absolute tatters. You cannot reach billionaire status through one-hour work weeks and cack-handed business launches. You cannot build an empire when the foundation is made of rewritten history and family abandonment. The world has stopped responding to her charms, and the only person left to respond is Prince Harry. But even for Harry, the bigger picture is becoming impossible to ignore. He is seeing his personal brand, his military legacy, and his royal dignity being traded for jam jars that won't sell, and Netflix shows that the world views as comedy gold. By 2026, the Sussexes will find themselves in a unique kind of exile, not an exile forced by the crown, but an isolation created by a world that has simply lost interest in their drama. The wall they are hitting is made of the very celebrity culture they thought would save them. As we stand at the threshold of 2026, the dream of becoming billionaire entrepreneurs with Prince Harry in tow is no longer just fading, it is in absolute tatters. And the most bitter pill to swallow is that it is truly all their own fault. Looking back through their history, from the moment they stepped away from the monarchy, you can see a relentless series of missteps, bombshells, and strategic blunders that they laid themselves. They traded a lifetime of service and dignity for a handful of headlines, and now the headlines have turned against them. Harry, even after all these years, seems trapped in a loop, deciding to believe one curated version of events, unable or unwilling to see the wreckage his association with the Markle brand has caused to his legacy. He makes tentative steps to reach out, to find a purpose within Invictus or his own charities. But once the shadow of Meghan's PR machine finds out, those efforts are often crushed or redirected to serve the diva Duchess narrative. Meghan remains unable to understand why the world refuses to respond to her charms. She cannot see that in 2025, the world doesn't want a celebrity royal. It wants authenticity and hard work, two things that a one-hour work week simply cannot provide. The wall they are hitting in 2026 is the wall of public indifference. The celebrity circle has moved on, the royal family has closed ranks, and the billionaire dream has been replaced by the reality of a shambolic lifestyle brand that no one can relate to. The only person left responding to the Sussex charm is Harry himself, and even his patience is showing signs of a bigger, darker realization. This hasn't been a tragedy forced upon them by the media or the palace. It has been a self-inflicted autopsy of a global brand that valued optics over substance. Thank you for joining me on this special royal appointment. It has been a pleasure to have your company as we dissected the collapse of the Sussex Empire. As the festive season remains with us, do look after yourselves. If you found this analysis insightful, please like, share and comment. Your support keeps these deep dives going. Until next time, take care of yourselves as we wait to see if the sunset of 2026 is indeed the final curtain for Harry and Meghan. Happy Christmas to you all.